Please welcome Antonio Zappulla, CEO of the Thomson Reuters Foundation, onto the stage.
Hello, good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trust Conference. It's great to be back on this stage and to see all of you here with us today. And whether you're new to Trust Conference or whether you're one of the many returning delegates, thank you. Thank you for being with us. Every year, Trust Conference brings together business, media, legal, and civil society leaders sharing a simple commitment. A commitment to protect and to advance free, fair, and informed societies. Across these 2 days, we expect more than 700 participants representing 45 different countries. And this, I believe, is testament to the critical need for this conference and overall for our work at the Thomson Reuters Foundation. It's been exactly a year since we last met here at Trust Conference, and what a year has been. It's no exaggeration to say that this has been a period of unprecedented disruption. We're witnessing a control-alt-delete moment, one that is rebooting the world order as we know it. The tectonic plates of geopolitics, economics, and ideology are shifting. The decline of multilateralism, the surge in nationalism and protectionism, and the rise of strong, often autocratic leaders is reshaping societies and institutions everywhere. Nothing is spared. International relations, international trade, international development, the arts, academia, business, every sector is facing turmoil, shock, and uncertainty. And those holding the line, activists, journalists, and legal practitioners, are in the eye of the storm. And let's be clear, this is not some dystopian projection into the distant future. This is the lived reality right here, right now, for billions of people. And this is not just a glitch. We need to abandon the illusion that this is all just a temporary phase and everything will eventually go back to the optimistic, functional, and collaborative world order of the late 90s and the early 2000s. Because it won't. This is a reset moment, and is one that will have lasting repercussions for generations to come. And it's a global reset. Look around the room. The number of delegates coming here from all over the world is testament to the global nature of this shift. This is a defining moment for humanity. The decisions that are being taken today will shape the next few decades, and we have a shared responsibility to ensure democracy survives. My team and I have designed the content of these 2 days as an opportunity for all of us to challenge ourselves, to forge meaningful connections, but mostly as a moment to take stock and to help make sense of the way in which the world is tilting. What are the drivers of this global reset? This year's program tries to answer this question and is built around the premise that this big global reset is being driven by 3 underlying enablers. First, the changing role of the United States in the world. Second, the speed of adoption of technological transformation. And third, the spread of a trend that turns legislation built to protect people and society into a tool of retaliation, intimidation, and oppression. We call it weaponization of the law. For decades, the US has been the dominant superpower, the protector of democracy, of the liberal international order. But today, America is repositioning itself in the world. It's proactively changing the terms and the rules of engagement. This is triggering a 3-dimensional challenge: geopolitical over security and alliances, economic over trade and international aid, and ideological, because America's new leadership is openly supporting anti-liberal parties around the world, those same political parties supported by Russia. These challenges are particularly felt here in Europe. The guarantee of US security, which enabled peace in this continent for over a century, is no longer in place. Just look at how the conversation around Ukraine, or in fact NATO, has changed since January. As a result, around the world we're witnessing strong political polarization, the rise of populist parties, and the emergence of new alliances, with China and Russia playing a key role on the international stage. Look at trade. Uncertainty is the new framework. And as a result, the BRICS alliance of countries, which includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is now openly calling for a multipolar world order, essentially what China has been quietly championing for several years. According to Chatham House, 40% of India's oil and 50% of its military equipment now comes from Russia. And Brazil, slammed by a 50% trade tariff imposed by the US administration, has also strengthened its trading partnership with Russia. This shift in global power dynamics is also being impacted by the massive and abrupt cuts in international aid that undermine the ability of many countries to fight, among other things, poverty, diseases, climate change, and disinformation. The United States, the champion of multilateralism, has dramatically scaled back its global engagement. In March, President Trump announced that his administration was rejecting and denouncing the global goals agreed by the United Nations in 2015. The goals were designed with the ambition to eradicate poverty and to promote sustainable development by 2030. The shockwaves reverberated around the world. The severity of the cuts in foreign aid triggered by the Trump administration have since cascaded to the UK and Europe, shocking even those who sensed they might be coming. According to the Center for Global Development, by next year, US foreign aid will be less than $29 billion. That's a drastic 50% reduction in just 2 years and the lowest in real terms since 2002. The US is not alone in pursuing these measures. A combination of slow growth and the end of America's guaranteed assistance in military security has seen other countries slashing their aid budgets. Here in the UK, the government announced a reduction in aid contribution to 0.3% of gross national income. The money is being shifted to the national defense budget. France, Germany, Switzerland have taken very similar measures. And as ever, it's the world's most vulnerable who are being hit hardest. Essential health programs, climate adaptation projects, food security initiative, and education programs in some of the poorest nations on the planet are being dismantled. In Afghanistan, approximately 420 health facilities have now closed, denying 3 million people access to primary health care. According to UNAIDS, the cut in funding for PrEP, the HIV-preventing drug, will lead to an increase in HIV transmission estimated in the region of 2,300 new cases per day. The World Food Programme predicts a 21% reduction in the number of people that will receive assistance this year. That's 16 million people less than last year, and the biggest impact will be felt in Yemen. According to the World Bank, for the second consecutive year, global poverty reduction has now stalled. The number of people living below the poverty line is rising to more than 830 million, a reversal of a trend that lasted more than a decade. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Independent media has also been hit hard. The most iconic examples are, of course, Voice of America and Radio Free Europe, which played a fundamental role in the fall of the Iron Curtain. Soft power has officially been replaced by immediate transactionalism. And that is because America's inward shift is not just about budget cuts, it's also about ideology. And where the US leads, others follow. As the rhetoric of America First takes center stage in both policy and public discourse, we are witnessing a global rise in populism. A type of populism that champions an us versus them rhetoric, often with language, tones, and political ideas that only a few years ago seemed unthinkable. The driving factors behind the rise of this type of populism are almost identical everywhere. Declining economic standards, fear of uncontrolled immigration, lack of trust in the media and political institutions, and the desire for a strong political leader who's able to fix the status quo, even if this requires overriding the checks and balances that hold power to account and that are essential to functioning democracies. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, which polls 33,000 people in 28 countries, 61% of Americans agree that the country would be better off if leaders would act without interference from courts or Congress. That's the highest level in 2 decades. Here in Europe, the desire for strong leadership is resonating particularly with the younger generations. According to a study commissioned by Channel 4, 52% of people aged between 13 and 27 think the UK would be a better place if a strong leader was in charge and if they didn't have to bother with parliament or elections. An SWG poll conducted in Italy paints a very similar picture. In the latest European elections, it was the younger voters who backed anti-immigration parties. In Germany, the percentage of 24 to 30-year-olds who voted for the AfD increased 11% from the previous election. In France, Marine Le Pen's National Rally won 30% of the youth vote. And as a result, the far-right Patriots for Europe alliance is now the third largest political group in the European Parliament. The changing role of the United States in the world, with its lack of interest in multilateralism, its retreat from global cooperation, and its celebration of executive power, is having an impact around the world, eroding institutions designed to protect fundamental rights and freedoms of people. The Global Democracy Attitude Survey found that across 12 high-income countries, including Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Sweden, the UK, and the US, on average, 64% of adults are dissatisfied with the way in which democracy is working. Only 35% are happy. And only 7 years ago, there was a 50-50 split in these numbers. And when the US steps back from its role as a defender of democratic values, it leaves a vacuum that autocrats are quick to fill. And so perhaps it should be no surprise that for the first time in decades, autocracies are now outnumbering democracies. According to the Democracy Report produced by the VDEM Institute, around the world there are now 91 elected autocracies and just 88 democracies. Let's look at these numbers in terms of people. That means that less than 12% of the world's population live in a liberal democracy. And that's because almost 6 billion people, that's 3 out of 4 in the world, now live under autocratic rule. This is the lowest number of citizens living in a liberal democracy in 50 years. Autocratic leaders have a lot in common. They exploit fears stemming from income inequality and rise in immigration. They champion a nationalist protectionist agenda. They support unregulated technology. They foster a narrative of persecution by the elites when held accountable by judges. They try to weaken and politicize the judiciary. And they are openly hostile to civil rights activists, lawyers, and the media, often introducing legislation that cripples their ability to hold power to account. Take the media. According to the latest VDEM report, freedom of expression is now declining in 44 countries. That's the highest number recorded so far. According to CPJ, a record number of journalists were jailed last year. 361 reporters are in fact currently behind bars. China, Israel, Myanmar, Belarus, and Russia are the worst offenders. And last year, more than 60% of the journalists that were in prison were jailed through legal tactics. 30% of them have been sentenced to terms ranging from 5 to more than 10 years. Lawfare is indeed a global trend. Defamation, slaps, foreign agent laws, allegation of financial misconduct, and even obstruction of legal representation are increasingly being used to harass, intimidate, and silence journalists. This triggers self-censorship and fuels distrust towards the media. But lawfare is not only affecting the media, it's also hurting activists and lawyers. In other words, it's making life harder for the 3 key categories of professionals holding the line. According to Civicus, almost 73% of the world's population live in countries that proactively hamper human rights defenders. The tactics, again, are very similar everywhere. We're witnessing an increase in surveillance and censorship, the criminalization of dissent, and an effort to control and limit the actions of civil society through funding restrictions. In India, President Modi has revoked the licenses of thousands of civil society groups for so-called non-compliance with foreign funding rules. Many international NGOs have shut down. The list includes Oxfam, Amnesty International, and World Vision. They say this is all part of a larger crackdown to stifle criticism of the government. This systematic weaponization of existing laws is also evident from the way in which many governments around the world are increasingly using counterterrorism and anti-money laundering laws to target political opponents and those who dissent. In this context, it's perhaps no surprise that we're also witnessing a surge in physical attacks on human rights and civil rights defenders. The highest numbers of victims are being reported in Brazil, Colombia, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and Peru. In the US, we're witnessing a sharp rise in detention of protesters. This appears to be in complete contradiction to the freedom of speech absolutism that this administration has been championing after accusing the previous government of fostering a woke culture rooted in censorship. And so hundreds of university students protesting in solidarity with Palestinians have been dispersed or detained. In April and May, more than 3,200 students were arrested, accused of offenses such as material support for terrorism. Something similar is happening here in the UK. Last month, the police arrested more than 900 activists in one day. They were opposing the proscription of Palestine action. And as laws are increasingly being used to target the very people they are meant to protect, we're also witnessing a surge in attacks on legal professionals. Last year, on this very stage, we spoke of the appalling harassment against the legal team defending Hong Kong pro-democracy activist and media owner Jimmy Lai, who's jailed in Hong Kong. His lawyer, Keelan Gallagher, discussed the sustained and aggressive campaign against her and her family orchestrated by the Chinese government. Let's take a listen.
I will usually wake up to find, first of all, a notification from my bank that there's been an attempt to hack my bank account, notifications that there's been attempts to hack my email and my personal email as well as my professional email. You will also wake up to a whole series of rape and dismemberment threats, including things relating to my kids. I had a really vile message last week about my teenage daughter by name, and it's unpleasant, you know. And for years I've represented female journalists experiencing much of this. And when it happens to you, it's in your inbox. It's very hard to get away from it. You often get it at 5 a.m. in the morning, and it's frightening.
This is the price human rights defenders are now paying on a daily basis. In the US, President Trump has openly challenged the legal system, accusing judges of being activists and insisting that law firms undertake pro bono assistance for his administration's causes. He's also issued a number of executive orders against several law firms that have the power to destroy them. These have included withdrawing government contracts or limiting access to government building and resources. Now, some of these orders have been quashed by judges, but some law firms have capitulated, aligning their work to the policies and interests of the new US administration. And of course, all of this is happening in conjunction with the most rapid acceleration and adoption of technology the world has ever seen. The potential of artificial intelligence as an economic driver is immense. PwC estimates that AI adoption will boost global GDP by 15% in the next 10 years. By then, every new dollar spent on AI solutions will contribute almost $5 to the global economy. As of the start of this month, the world's top companies developing AI have a combined market cap of almost $22 trillion. That's more than the GDP of China. And so as the world shifts towards autocratic rule, we're also seeing the relationship between state and big tech changing. This is very evident in the US. The real implications of these new dynamics are yet to play out, but fundamental questions are already emerging. Take freedom of speech and the capitulation of fact-checking and content moderation from all social media platforms. Some activists are already using the term techno-authoritarianism to describe a society where autocrats exploit technology to consolidate power, stifle dissent, and to control the information narrative. From the collection of biometrics to mass surveillance, whose interest will the policies of our government serve? And how will regulatory framework keep pace with the speed and scale of AI? And who will win the global AI race from a business and a geopolitical perspective? These are huge questions reshaping the future of democracy, which is the theme that runs through both days here at Trust Conference. With our first two panels, we'll take a deep dive into the many ways in which our democratic institutions are being attacked as the world shifts toward authoritarianism. We'll be joined on stage by leaders from academia, media, technology, activism, and the legal profession. What's at stake, and how can we fight back? From there, we'll be taking a closer look at some of the hidden implications behind the power and the promise of AI. We'll welcome tech activist and whistleblower Christopher Wiley, who will share the findings of his investigation over the dystopian vision of the world secretly championed by some of the top players in big tech. This afternoon's conversation will be focused on issues around weaponization of the law. We'll take a closer look at foreign agent laws. What are they meant for? And how are they increasingly being weaponized to silence dissent? From Russia to Georgia, to Kyrgyzstan, to Slovakia and Bulgaria, these laws are spreading like wildfire, threatening anyone who commits a crime against the security or the political interests of the state. We'll be presenting some of the work done by the Thomson Reuters Foundation to map these trends with the goal to empower civil society and legal professionals to understand and counter these threats. And we'll be showcasing real-life examples of the nefarious consequences of foreign agent laws. We'll be joined by Alsu Kurmasheva, a journalist of Radio Free Europe who spent 9 months in a Russian prison accused of spreading fake news about the Russian army. Alsu will be joined on stage by her lawyer who represented her, Janye Kinsu. And we'll end the day by taking stock of the many challenges faced by public interest media. Rising authoritarianism, increased legal challenges, disinformation, lack of trust in media, dropping revenue, and the rising tech costs. It's the perfect storm. We'll first zoom in on a specific case, the decision to ban the Associated Press from the White House over its use of the term Gulf of Mexico. And then we'll zoom out and take a look at the systemic and seismic challenges facing the news industry. We'll be joined by some of the world's best news leaders who are coming together to share candid insights related to their efforts to uphold the truth in the current environment. Tomorrow, we'll be taking a closer look at how we put into practice a vision for AI that prioritizes people over profit and protects our fundamental rights. As geopolitical shifts are increasingly influenced by the AI race, we'll be looking at the responsibilities of governments, tech companies, but also business, courts, and civil society to ensure new technologies indeed serve humanity. Against these escalating threats to global freedoms, the work of the Thomson Reuters Foundation has never been more critical. Despite an increasingly complex and dangerous environment, we continue to leverage our media, legal, and data-driven expertise to foster free, fair, and informed societies. A new world order is emerging, but is not yet fixed. It can still be shaped. And that is why Trust Conference is such a pivotal moment for us, as it brings together our partners, our donors, our beneficiaries, you. You believe, as we do, that the future of democracy is dependent on protecting free and independent journalism, equitable access to the law, and business practices that are fair and sustainable for societies. Over the course of the next 2 days, we'll be dissecting many critical issues, examining how they interconnect, how they impact our freedoms and civil liberties, and how together we can halt the backsliding of democracy. This year, we're giving you more opportunities to connect with other delegates here and to attend breakout sessions. This afternoon, for example, we'll be running multiple panels with discussions ranging from the power of freedom of information laws to the way in which Gen Z is reshaping the definition and the consumption of news. We've also introduced an exhibition area where you can meet some of my colleagues at the Thomson Reuters Foundation to learn more about our work. There are plenty of opportunities to collaborate. In our exhibition area, you can also meet the correspondents working for Context, our newsroom. You can test out the interactive tool developed by Miso AI, which brings you articles from our newsroom tailored to your specific interests. You'll also find a powerful exhibition of images shot by Reuters photographers around the world. And if you want to make a difference, you can even donate your voice at the Common Voice Station. It's a project driven by our friends at Mozilla Foundation to make voice recognition accessible for everyone. Also today, you'll have the exclusive opportunity to purchase a signed copy of The 7 Rules of Trust by Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia and Wikimedia. So grab your copy during the network break. And if you want to connect with other delegates, use the networking tool available on the Trust Conference website. Just specify the topics you're interested in, and you'll be able to connect with other delegates and even meet, if you like, in our networking areas located on the first floor. And if you want to keep those connections after Trust Conference, sign up to our LinkedIn group by using the QR code on display around the venue. And as every year, of course, we encourage you to amplify the conversation beyond this room. So share your insights and reactions on social media. Now, I would like to take this moment to say thank you to all of our speakers. Nobody gets paid to speak here at Trust Conference, and certainly we don't take this for granted. I also want to say thank you to our event partners, Context, FT Strategies, Civicus, and the Mozilla Foundation. Your support is so valuable and appreciated. And of course, I want to thank us reporters. It's because of their generosity that this event can be free to attend. And so huge thanks to our platinum supporter, the People's Postcode Lottery. We are incredibly grateful for your continued trust in us and for your commitment to this initiative. I would also like to thank the Siegel Family Endowment and the Omedia Network. Omedia Network is also kindly hosting our drinks reception tonight. You are all invited, so please stay with us until the end. I'm also excited that this year our media partner is DevEx, the platform for the global development community. And of course, I would like to thank my phenomenal team at the Thomson Reuters Foundation, who has worked so hard for so many months to put together all of this. If there's a message that I hope you take away from this conference, is this: the erosion of democracy is not inevitable. The threats are real, but so is our capacity for resistance. Every person in this room, every journalist, every lawyer, every activist, every business leader has a role to play. The work you do, the stories you tell, the cases you defend, and the values you uphold are the building blocks of a more just and more resilient world. And so I want to thank you. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for everything you do to defend democracy when it has never mattered more. Enjoy the conference, and I'll see you later.